This is absolutely shocking. Not only has Donald Trump revealed to the press that Diddy is asking for a presidential pardon for his crimes, but now a juror who was part of the jury for the trial is claiming that Diddy could walk free pretty soon for some truly bizarre reasons.
To prove that it was like a criminal enterprise was a very high bar.
George was a juror in the Sean Combs criminal trial. After sitting for nearly 2 months, listening to 34 witnesses, he found out he was an alternate and sent home at deliberation time.
So what did you think of the verdict then?
I understood the verdict.
What would you say to those people who think that the jury got it wrong?
The charges of trafficking, they were more difficult, and the standard of proof was very high.
When the judge said 50 months, the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. For a split second, even the sound of camera shutters faded. Sean Diddy Combs, once one of the most powerful figures in music, sat motionless. His shoulders slumped slightly, his eyes fixed on the table in front of him. This was it. 4 years and 2 months behind bars. But in that moment, as the cameras captured every blink and every sigh, one question echoed in everyone's mind. Would he really serve the full term? The answer, as with most things involving federal law, is complicated. The short answer is probably not. If you want the long answer, we're going to tell you exactly how he's going to do it, according to the experts. Diddy was convicted on 2 counts related to the illegal transportation of individuals across state lines, but the jury acquitted him of the far heavier accusations, trafficking and racketeering, which could have carried decades in prison. That mixed verdict was a turning point. It didn't clear his name, but it did spare him a potential life sentence. For his defense team, it was a sign that the battle wasn't over. For prosecutors, it was a message that the court still held him accountable upon the sentencing. Diddy seemed to be in tears, but his former bodyguard Gene Deal pulled absolutely no punches about his ex-employer, with his feeling being that the sentence simply wasn't harsh.
Have you seen these sketches of Diddy crying in court after getting 50 months? Check your phone right quick.
Man, looking at these pictures, Diddy in court, the artist got him, looking at these pictures with Diddy in court, bruh, the artist got him crying. The artist got a hold in his head. The artist got him dropping to his knees at the time of the verdict, crying on the chair. My heart goes out and it says, fuck him and feed him beans. I can care less about his sadness. I can care less about him being in pain. I can care less about what he has to be faced with in court or in jail now. I don't have no remorseful feelings for him, bruh. You understand? This is somebody that at one time I would have given my own life for. And to know this nigga was trying to get people to take my life because I was trying to teach them to be right by people and tell them to be right by people. I have no remorse for this dude, bruh. To see him like that, I know there is a God. And you can feel all the way you want to feel about me. You can say whatever you want to say about me. But karma is a mother. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't have no sympathy at all. Because I know he can play all the games he want to play. Did he have sympathy when he said, I don't give a f*** if Pac gotta die? I don't give a f*** if Big gotta die. Suge Knight can go to jail. Did he have any sympathy when he said to Wolf, I don't need you no more? Meech said, I don't need you no more. Set him off. Do you have sympathy when he told D. Ferg, nah, I can't do that. Nah, I don't f with you. Nah, I can't do that like that. Did he have sympathy when he said to Wolf Mama, your son has delusions of grandeur. All he want to do is smoke weed and get high. Do you have sympathy for for the notorious Big Mama. Talking about, I didn't go to the funeral. He ain't go to the funeral. Did he have sympathy for Craig Mack? Did he have sympathy for Black Rob to make sure he did the right thing by them? And he sure didn't have no damn sympathy for me when he told dudes to come at me.
Federal sentencing doesn't work the way most people think. When a judge announces 50 months, that's the maximum term before any reductions or credits are applied. Diddy had already spent more than a year in custody awaiting trial, which automatically counts toward his sentence. That alone drops his remaining time to around 3 years.
An attorney that I did speak to did make clear, though, that a lot of times in these federal cases, people don't necessarily serve the entire time. So again, Combs has already been behind bars for a little over a year. Then there's, I was told, 15% off for good behavior, sometimes 15% off the sentence. There's First Step Act credits to consider. There's a certain percentage that you can do for halfway house or home confinement and possibly additional time off for drug treatment programs. So in the end, we don't know exactly what that really looks like in terms of how much more time Combs will spend behind bars. But again, this judge trying to send a message saying that what he did was wrong and that he did believe the credibility of those women who testified. Court just adjourned, but I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts from the judge. He looks over at Combs and says, you are going to get through this. There is light at the end to help people like him. You will have a chance, he says, to show your children and the world that accountability and change is possible.
His words were more than moral encouragement. They hinted at a belief that Diddy could change, something that could influence future parole or early release decisions. Behind closed doors, Diddy's legal team is already strategizing. Sources close to the defense suggest they plan to appeal the sentence, arguing that some evidence considered by the court came from charges on which Diddy was acquitted. If an appellate court agrees, the sentence could be reduced or sent back for reconsideration. It's a long shot, but given Diddy's resources, it's not out of the question.
Not have him around, especially his children who lost their mother, Kim Porter. His lawyer, Nicole Westmoreland, also broke down crying when she talked about Sean Combs. She said that he had changed her life. And then Sean Combs himself got up and spoke in court. And he said that what's been really hard for him during this trial is having to be silent, not being able to speak on his own behalf. He said that his actions were disgusting, they were shameful, and they were sick. He said that he's not a larger-than-life person. He is a human being, and that he got lost in the excess, in the ego. His voice was shaking. He was crying today. I saw him wiping tears from his face in court. And he ultimately said that he is humbled and he's broken. He said, I hate myself right now, before the judge and before this sentence came down.
So, Katrina, prosecutors, though, they had wanted this sentence to be 11 years. What did the judge say when they actually handed this down?
So ultimately, the judge decided to give him this sentence of 50 months incarceration, 5 years of supervised release. And this is actually lower, it's significantly lower than what the prosecution wanted. That was about 11 years. And then the probationary recommendation was 7 years. Now, Sean Combs' team, they wanted only up to 14 months. So he did end up getting significantly more than that. What the judge said, though, is he began when he delivered this sentence by very warmly talking about all that Sean Combs has accomplished, the things that we heard today, how devoted he is to his family, how he broke barriers as a Black man, his entrepreneurship. But then there was this shift in tone, and he got very serious, and he ultimately said that there was just an overwhelming amount of evidence in this case. The actions that Sean Combs took against his ex-girlfriends, Cassie Ventura, and a woman who went by Jane, who testified in this courtroom. Sean Combs was really hoping to potentially even walk out of that court today. His team major had actually set up a teaching engagement for him on October 6th with the hope that they were creating a plan for him when he got out of the MDC, where he has been for the last almost 13 months. And the judge's tone was very interesting because he began delivering this major by praising Sean Combs, by talking about all of the iconic and incredible work that he's done as an entrepreneur. He said that he took into account all of these mitigating factors, his community ties, the work he's done, his family. But despite all of that, he said that the evidence was just overwhelming in this case. The violence, especially with the two women, the victims who spoke at this trial, Major. He said that for deterrence, it was important that he give a substantial sentence here to show that exploitation and violence against women are met with real accountability.
And Katrina, just very quickly, explain the gap between what prosecutors were advocating for, what the defense was seeking in terms of a sentence, and where the judge ultimately landed.
Absolutely. So the defense was asking for up to 14 months. Sean Combs has already spent about 13 months in the Metropolitan Detention Center, so that would have had him getting out almost immediately. What the prosecution wanted was a little bit over 11 years. The probationary report had said to give him 7 years. So the judge pointed out that he did actually go less than that recommendation. He said that he felt the prosecution's estimate was just too extreme, Major, but at the same time, the defense's was just far too short a time frame.
Meanwhile, analysts have been doing the math. Between time served, potential good behavior, First Step Act credits, and halfway house transfer eligibility, Diddy could theoretically be released in a little over 2 years. That timeline could shorten even more depending on his participation in rehabilitative programs and ongoing legal motions. Public opinion has been split since the verdict. Some believe Diddy's influence helped him avoid a harsher punishment.
That Diddy booking a speaking arrangement had any kind of effect on his sentencing?
I think nothing that happened in court today played a part in Diddy's sentencing. You know what I'm saying? The judge had all the evidence. The judge had that evidence that when the prosecutor brought it forth to the courts, the judge already had the evidence, bro. He have all their statements. He have all what they're gonna present in court. So anything other than the victim's personal statements that got up, the judge didn't know about. The judge didn't know what the kids were gonna say. No, the judge didn't know what the lawyers was gonna say. Their last words. But the judge had already had in his mind, because he knew that he had put up speaking engagements and all like that. He already had in his mind that that Diddy had planned to do speaking engagements because Diddy had planned to be out this week. So it may have made a difference, a somewhat difference in the judge's opinion of time. Because I can't believe the way he started off the sentence, bruh. The way the judge started off when he spoke about the coercion and the relevant conduct, when he spoke about giving Diddy a lot of years and only came back with 50 years, he fooled everybody. 50 months. He spoke about getting Diddy a lot of years. You understand? He said this crime deserves a lot of years, but he only gave him 50 months. So I guess he looked at Diddy criminal history, Diddy, what he was doing into society or whatever like that, and said 50 months is a lot of months for him. But anybody else who's been in the prison system, anybody else who's been dealing with the courts and probably has some crimes under their belt, anybody else with this whole charge probably got way more months than Diddy got. Way more years than he got.
Others argue the court's decision reflected the complexity of the evidence and the split nature of the charges. What's clear is that this isn't the end. Appeals, behavioral reports, and federal reviews could all reshape what happens next.
Stephen A., I always like to look at this and take the 30,000-foot view. Remember a couple months ago, we were talking about RICO charges, that we were talking about 20, 30 years in prison, a lifetime in prison. Now he's got a couple more years, and then after that, a couple years of house arrest. That is not a bad result. Now, the reason why he's probably mad, his lawyers are going to appeal, because you want to see if you can get that even lower. That's what everybody does. But when you think about it, from where he was a couple months ago to where he is now, that is not a bad result at all.
Okay, what about those that are looking at it, Ryan Smith, and they're like, this is utterly ridiculous, man. The guy, it was consensual. The women agreed. and they're adults, etc. Why is he even facing all of this? What about those who are making that argument? Because there are those that were sitting outside the jail, outside, the courtroom and what have you, and they were making such proclamations. What level of validity gets attached to that?
I will push back and say, yeah, he was acquitted of many of those charges. But what he was convicted of was transportation for prostitution. And you know what? That evidence was crystal clear. It was crystal clear that people were making calls and saying, hey, you, go from this state to this state to engage in prostitution. Go from this state to this state to do that. That's a clear violation of the law. That's exactly what prosecutors charged them of. That carried certain penalties. And for everybody, and look, I understand how people think, well, he wasn't convicted of the top charges. They're trying to get him somehow. I would just back that up and say this. There are many things in this case that he was acquitted of, most of which carried most of the time in prison. What he was convicted of was the smallest stuff.
Now, Diddy's world is drastically different. Gone are the private jets, studio sessions, and flashing lights. His daily routine is structured, monitored, and quiet. Those close to him say he's spending his time reading, writing, and participating in counseling programs. A few insiders claim he's focused on rebuilding from within, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Many legal experts still feel that though the sentence may be short, it is not a failure of the system.
But the judge alluded to his violence against women. And I'm saying to myself, was that a part of the charges that were leveled against him? Was that what he was convicted of? Because I don't recall that being the case.
You bring up a great point. And you bring up, right there, you're giving one of the defense's arguments on appeal. They're going to argue that the judge was being a 13th juror here, and here's why. He was convicted on the he was convicted on the transportation for prostitution. He was not convicted on the coercion for sexual conduct. He was not convicted on racketeering. But the judge, I thought, made it interesting when he started bringing up statements about Jane and how Diddy's conduct was relevant to all of this in the sentence and how Diddy coerced her into these different situations. And that is part of what he wasn't convicted of. So naturally, the defense looks at that and says, oh, whoa. Part of this sentence that you're given here is based on something that he wasn't convicted on, and you cannot do that. Now, what the prosecution is going to argue in all of that is say, A, the judge has discretion in what he wants to do. B, the judge is making statements about what he believes is all part of this situation. He mentioned that Diddy was no ordinary John. He mentioned that he wants to deter this kind of conduct. He mentioned that he's worried that Diddy might go and do things like this again if he just lets him off with a light sentence. And all of this is part of the argument that the judge was sharing with the court to try to suss out for everybody why he came to this sentence.
After the sentencing, Diddy's legal team wasted no time shaping the next chapter of his story. Within days, they submitted a formal request asking Judge Aaron Subramanian to recommend that Diddy serve his sentence at FCI Fort Dix, a low-security federal prison in New Jersey. Their reasoning was one of strategy and survival. Diddy's attorney, Tenny Garagos, told the court that Fort Dix offered exactly what her client needed, a full residential drug treatment program and access to family visits. She argued that the environment there could help him rebuild himself mentally and spiritually while keeping him close to his family and legal team in New York. It will allow Mr. Combs to address his struggles and focus on rehabilitation, the letter stated.
I have you. I only have a little bit of time left. I got to switch gears real quick to Diddy. So he is asked to be sent to a low-security prison out in New Jersey for where he will serve his, prison term. 4 years, served already 1, so 3, maybe out in 2.5. Do you think he's going to get that request? Do you think he's going to serve it at this low-security prison in New Jersey?
It seems like the logical place for him to go. I mean, you've got, based on all of the factors and everything else that goes into the Bureau of Prisons, when they get the file, so to speak, they get the PSR, which is the pre-sentence report. They have a certain criteria, and a lot of that criteria has to do with geographic location and then the severity of the sentence and the charges. All of that would tend to lean towards the placement at this New Jersey facility. So I would say on a bell curve, 80% shot.
And chances he has a successful appeal, either a new trial or the sentence being adjusted?
I've had this argument with his team and people not on the team, and I don't want to reveal the work product, but I will tell you my reaction to this sentence was that because the judge accepted the sentencing guidelines and then went under it, and he accepted the sentencing guidelines that probation said, which was 70 to 87, I think, but went underneath at 50, it makes the appeal on the sentence tougher. I still think there's a whale of an argument on the Mann Act itself as applied, that the idea of having a prostitute cross state lines in order to film them and not have, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that's what the code section was designed to prevent.
For Diddy's defense, it's the ideal setting for someone trying to prove he's serious about change. Many big figures in the industry, such as the likes of Suge Knight, have come out in support of Diddy, saying that he should be allowed to build himself back.
But at the end of the day, I still think it's fair that public got less time because the other people who's involved in this case, other executives, other people, they didn't get punished at all. They walked away untouched. So in society, it's a fair side and it's a bullshit side. I know this. I never got the chance to put on a real defense. I had a paid attorney, was fired by the judge to give me a public pretender, and said I could not fire that man. And that man told me that I had to take a deal. Because I went to trial, I was going to lose. It threatened me to take a deal, and many other people. But that's just how it goes. One thing we gotta learn how to do is enjoy your own motherfucking life and fight for yourself. And you don't have to wish bad on others to make yourself better. So it's a great day for the Combs family. It might be a sad day for the victims. But all in all, we had to take this time and improve ourselves. We had to take our situations and look at the situations where let's take this time to rebuild hip-hop.
Final decision from the Bureau of Prisons could come within weeks. If Fort Dix is approved, Diddy's transfer would likely happen quietly without cameras or media coverage. From there, he'd begin his journey toward release step by step, credit by credit, under the watch of federal supervision. So, as the world moves on and headlines shift to the next big story, Sean Combs remains at a crossroads. The stage lights are gone, the business empire is paused, and the man once known for commanding attention now faces something much more difficult: silence. But somewhere in that silence, there may be a chance for redemption, and there will still seemingly be victims waiting for justice.
They gave testimony that they seen him beat her. It was put in Cassie's lawsuit that Usher was present watching Diddy. But see, I guess people, they not paying attention to what's going on, See, they needed to cut everybody else out to make sure that nobody got forced to testify because, RICO hurts. See, everybody's afraid of the word RICO. Don't nobody want to get caught up in it. You want to know why there was no testimony for him when it came time? Because they couldn't put anybody on the stand because they would have been forced to perjure themselves. Have we gotten that stupid in America that we just fall for whatever lie there is? Like, the man sat there and lied and said he never did anything wrong to that girl. Meanwhile, the second that she dropped her lawsuit, he kicked out $20 million in 24 hours. Why would you do that if you did nothing wrong? Why? You were doing it out of the kindness of your heart? Why? fine. Just like Mr. Clayton Bigsby. Because that's what he looks like, the crackhead. That Dave Chappelle used to play on the show, the Clayton Bigsby. He looks just like that to me. I'm sorry, I don't care how magnificent you say your penis is. I couldn't make it past the look of your face, sir. Cassie would have needed to be high on all of the stuff in that baby oil and everything else, y'all, to be able to make it through you. Or maybe the diddler really chose him because he wanted to make sure there was somebody there that was uglier than him.
Whether he emerges as the same man who entered or someone entirely different, only time will tell. Do you think this was a fair sentence for Diddy? Did he deserve more or less? Let us know in the comments, folks.